The Armani Hotel Dubai has gone dark. The most prestigious address inside the world's most famous tower, designed personally by Giorgio Armani, occupying the lower floors of the Burj Khalifa, has closed its doors. The official statement says renovation. The reopening is targeted for the final quarter of 2026. Read that again carefully. A hotel that is consistently ranked among the highest revenue per available room properties in the entire Gulf region has decided that the most rational financial decision is to shut down through the peak of high season, through Ramadan, through spring break, through every weekend that European and American families spend chasing winter sun. The Armani Hotel did not close because the carpets needed replacing. The Armani Hotel closed because the numbers stopped making sense. And the Armani is not alone. The Burj Al Arab, the sail-shaped icon that defined Dubai's ambition to the world, untouched by major renovation since it opened in 1999, has been taken offline for an 18-month refurbishment. The St. Regis on the Palm has suspended most of its services through the end of August. Atlantis Dubai has shuttered 7 of its restaurants, including Hakkasan and Oceano. This is not routine seasonal maintenance. This is not coincidence. This is a coordinated withdrawal by the most valuable hospitality assets in the most closely watched city on Earth. The Burj Khalifa is still standing. Structurally, it is sound, but the building was never really the product. The product was the dream the building was constructed to sell, and by every meaningful measure, except the structural one, that dream is in serious trouble. Dubai sold a very specific dream, and for 2 decades, it sold it brilliantly. The dream was this: you could live the lifestyle of Monaco at the price of a Florida condominium. You could place your wealth in a jurisdiction where it would be respected, your personal security would be guaranteed, and your skyline would never let you down. For anyone who built a career through the 1990s and 2000s watching the world's financial centers compete for capital and talent, Dubai presented something genuinely compelling. The Burj Khalifa, completed in 2010 at a cost of $1.5 billion, rising 828 meters into the desert sky, was the physical embodiment of that promise. To put that height in perspective, it is more than twice the height of the Empire State Building. It is 2 Eiffel Towers stacked on top of each other, with room to spare. Inside lived the Armani Hotel, the Dubai Mall, the dancing fountains, an entire district engineered to transform visitor arrivals into economic receipts. The numbers, until very recently, validated everything. In 2025, Dubai welcomed nearly 20 million international visitors. Dubai International Airport processed over 95 million passengers, more than any other hub on the planet. Tourism accounted for roughly 13% of national GDP and supported nearly 925,000 jobs. The Burj Khalifa observation decks operated at near capacity year-round. This was not a city under pressure. This was a city that had just posted 3 consecutive record-breaking years, on a trajectory to become the single most visited destination on Earth. Then, in the space of 48 hours at the end of February 2026, every one of those numbers became history. Let me give you the figures, because what has happened in the past several weeks has no modern precedent in this city's history. Mamoun Hamdan, chief business officer at travel data firm WGO, reported that hotel occupancy across Dubai has fallen to between 15% and 20%. To put that in context for anyone who has worked in business long enough to understand operating leverage, healthy occupancy for a premium Gulf market property runs between 75% and 85% during winter season. We are looking at a collapse of roughly 60 percentage points in 8 weeks. Hotel bookings have fallen more than 60% since the attacks began, according to data reported by Foreign Policy, Fortune, and CNN. Dubai International Airport, which handled 95 million passengers last year, now has terminals where parked aircraft outnumber passengers in motion. Aviation data firm Cirium estimated that approximately 24% of all Middle East flights were grounded in the immediate aftermath. 3,000 daily flights were disrupted. 80% of scheduled departures from Dubai were canceled in the first wave. The World Travel and Tourism Council estimates the conflict is now erasing approximately $600 million per day from regional tourism. The council projects that between 23 and 38 million fewer visitors may arrive in the region by the end of 2026 than were forecast just 6 months ago. On March 31st, 2026, the Dubai government announced a 1 billion dirham relief package, approximately $272 million, to be deployed over 3 to 6 months beginning April 1st. The package defers government fees for 90 days and allows hotels to postpone their tourism dirham obligations in full. Governments do not write checks of that magnitude for a temporary slowdown. They write them when they are managing a structural emergency. Here is what happened. At approximately 8 p.m. on Saturday, February 28, 2026, an intercepted Iranian drone struck the Fairmont Hotel on Palm Jumeirah, igniting a significant fire and injuring 4 people. The Burj Khalifa was evacuated as a precaution. Dubai International Airport sustained damage. 4 employees were injured. A fire broke out at Jebel Ali Port, the city's primary commercial maritime terminal. The UAE Ministry of Defense reported that its air defense systems intercepted 165 ballistic missiles, 2 cruise missiles across 48 hours. The vast majority were intercepted, but interception does not mean nothing reaches the ground. Debris falls. This was Dubai's ultimate nightmare, because the city's entire value proposition depended on being a safe oasis inside a troubled region. That sentence is the complete analytical framework for everything that follows. Dubai sold one specific product, packaged in 1,000 brochures and a generation of aspirational Instagram content. Dubai sold certainty. Dubai sold the promise that you could live in the Middle East without ever having to think about the Middle East. February 28th ended that promise. The conflict did not create Dubai's vulnerabilities. It revealed them. Dubai is home to 237 centimillionaires and more than 20 billionaires. In 2025 alone, approximately $63 billion in wealth migrated to the emirate. For this group, February 28th is real but manageable. Some departed immediately on charter jets. Operators reported being fully booked for several days following the strikes. But the villas in Emirates Hills are not being liquidated. The waterfront properties on Palm Jumeirah are not flooding the market. The ultra-wealthy treat geopolitical risk the way most of us treat a flight delay, an inconvenience to navigate around, not a crisis to resolve. They will wait, and many will buy at the bottom. The middle layer is where the pain is tangible and personal. The professional in her mid-40s who relocated her family to Dubai Marina on the promise of tax-free income and predictable schooling. The investor who committed 2 decades of savings to an off-plan apartment in Business Bay. This is the group that signed up specifically for the certainty product. This is the group now reading travel advisories from their own foreign ministries, renegotiating insurance terms, and asking whether the school year will complete normally. According to UBS, even before the February strikes, household income growth in Dubai was already failing to keep pace with property price increases. The certainty was quietly eroding long before the drones arrived. February simply made it visible. The deepest layer, the one that rarely receives serious coverage, is the one that makes the entire Dubai economic model function. Dubai's 925,000 tourism-related jobs are filled predominantly by migrant workers from South Asia, the Philippines, and East Africa. The taxi driver working 14-hour shifts to send money home to Karachi or Manila. The construction worker building the next tower in 45-degree heat. The hotel housekeeper cleaning rooms that are now standing empty. These workers do not hold golden visas. They do not have severance protections comparable to European labor standards. When occupancy falls to 15%, the arithmetic of their employment contracts becomes brutal within weeks. The dream was never one dream. It was 3 or 4 entirely different dreams, sold under the same brand. When the brand fractured, every layer fractured. Here is what the official reports will not say plainly. The vulnerability exposed on February 28th was not created on February 28th. It was built into the city's structure over 15 years. The signals were available to anyone willing to read them. In 2025, credit rating agency Fitch issued a warning that Dubai's residential property market faced a potential price correction of up to 15% through late 2025 and into 2026. The reason was not conflict. The reason was supply. Following a 60% increase in residential prices between 2022 and early 2025, Fitch projected that approximately 210,000 new housing units were scheduled for delivery. In 2025, Isam Kazim, CEO of Dubai's Department of Economy and Tourism, acknowledged at a global travel forum that the city was working to develop what he called a deeper sense of soul, a stronger cultural identity beyond the towers and the shopping centers. That is the head of Dubai Tourism, stating publicly that the product, as it existed, was missing something essential. Prominent Emirati lawyers have publicly criticized the city's traffic infrastructure and urban strain on social media. Let me close honestly, because reflexive pessimism is as intellectually lazy as uncritical boosterism. Dubai has navigated serious crisis before. The 2008 property crash was followed, after a significant correction, by a recovery that ultimately produced the record-breaking numbers of 2025. The 8.4% population decline of 2020 was followed by record arrivals 2 years later. That resilience is documented and real. Dismissing it would be dishonest. But there is a critical distinction that almost no analysis is making clearly. There is operational recovery, and there is confidence recovery. These are two entirely different processes on two entirely different timelines. Operational recovery is relatively fast. Hotels reopen, flights resume. The fountains begin dancing again. Dubai has demonstrated it is exceptionally capable at operational recovery. Confidence recovery is slower and considerably less certain. The traveler who spent a night listening to hundreds of explosions outside her hotel window will not rebook for years. The institutional investor who watched the Dubai financial market suspend trading for the first time in its history during the closures of March 2nd and 3rd will now price political risk into Dubai assets in a way that simply did not exist before. Asset value recovery is the slowest of all. The 2008 correction required roughly 7 years to fully unwind in the prime segments. With 210,000 new units entering the market, Saudi competition opening, and a regional security premium now permanently embedded in Gulf risk modeling, the next correction may prove longer. The Burj Khalifa is still standing. Structurally, it is sound, but the building was never the product. The product was certainty. The product was the promise that this was the one place in the Middle East where the Middle East could not reach you. That product was struck on February 28th, 2026. If you live in Dubai, if you were planning to relocate there, or if you place capital into property there because the certainty on the brochure seemed unbeatable, the calculation has changed for you. Tell me how in the comments. I read every one. The most valuable analysis in this channel consistently comes from people who lived the story from the inside. And if this kind of rigorous, in-depth examination of what is genuinely happening inside the world's most closely watched cities is why you are here, you already know what to do.